This episode is kindly sponsored by Ruth Wayman, Counselling and Psychotherapy. Family planning and fertility can be a stressful time filled with uncertainties. Talking therapy can help you cope better with anxiety, giving you the insight and tools you need to better enjoy the journey to parenthood. Ruth works with children, teens and adults in Hawley and Crawley, offering one-to-one support for mental health needs. Find out more at ruthwaymentherapy.com. That's ruthwaymentherapy.com, spelt WHYMAN. Get in touch and see whether Talking Therapies can support your mental health. Before I introduce today's guest, please welcome my fabulous co-host. Some of you may already know him, and it is, of course, Chris Malden. Welcome, mate. Now, our next guest traded the corporate ladder for entrepreneurial hustle and somehow managed to keep both his sanity and sunniest of days outlook on life. He's a self-confessed dog devotee who radiates enough good vibes energy to power a small city. While most people would have folded under the weight of his path to parenthood, he and his husband have turned their ongoing journey into a masterclass of resilience, heart, and hope. He is a genuine breath of fresh air and a dear friend of mine. Please welcome the stunning, the soulful, and the continually caffeinated Jonathan.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Authentically LGBT. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Actually, it's a nice day. I'm with you fine people. So yeah,
Super
good.
sunny today, actually, outside. Now, look, we start this podcast with the same question, roughly, and that is around the term queer.
Okay.
Now, are you a fan of the term queer? Are you not a fan of the term queer, and why?
Oh, see, I'm of that generation where queer was a bit of a slur. Definitely heard that a few times at school. Okay. So I grew up it being a bit derogatory, where I think now with today's generation, it's almost a term they don't mind hearing or being described as. So I think I prefer gay, where it feels less of a slur than queer. So
I had gay at school. Like gay was always a slur for me.
Okay.
Always at school. Oh, you're gay. Like, you know, at PE and all that. But I never heard the word queer.
No, I think for me, I was always called queer more.
Was you?
Yeah, or puff, I think was one of the words that came out quite a lot.
Sure.
I think as Jonathan was saying, you know, gay is something that I prefer to use the term gay because I'm proud of that. Whereas queer is quite an umbrella term, if that makes sense. Whereas I'm proud of saying, no, I'm gay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm proud of I don't really care, to be honest. Call me whatever. That's where I stand, I think.
Yeah, I don't see queer as a slur anymore. Like Jonathan was saying, it's very much used more so now by the younger generation.
Yeah.
In a positive aspect than it is negative.
It's definitely generational, isn't it, I think?
Yeah.
My auntie, and she won't mind me talking about this because we talk about it all the time, she actually doesn't like the word lesbian either, and she is a lesbian. She doesn't like the word queer, and that, I think, is a generational thing. So yeah, we're diving into that subject. Okay. So that's where you stand.
That's where I stand. There is one word, I mean, I won't even say it, I despise the most, but it begins with F, and I hate that word.
Oh.
I hate it with a passion.
Okay, I've just got that. Yeah.
That's also a word that's being used more by the younger generation.
Is it?
Yeah, I've heard it a lot. Heard it a lot recently. Again, I don't like it. I think it's, you know,
in a derogatory way.
No, in more of a positive manner. They're using it as a
identity.
Yeah, and embracing the word instead of being offended by it. Whereas if you call me that, I'm going to be offended by it. I think, I'm not a fan of that.
You're talking about within the community or people who aren't in
the community?
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't see that.
Yeah.
I would be offended, I think.
I think I would be too, yeah.
But yeah, queer, I think, is a term that's being reinvented, isn't it? Definitely by the younger.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, agreed.
Younger generation. All right, cool. We might come back to that at the end and see if our opinion has changed, but I think we are pretty strong on that. So your coming out story.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Oh, so again,
where do we begin?
On that generation, believe it or not, I played it straight for most of my teens. I had girlfriends.
Did you?
I know, I went to the dark side. So I was like, what am I doing? But I kind of knew at a young age I was gay because in Batman and Robin, Chris O'Donnell, I was like, that was probably my gay awakening. But
that was one of my questions at the end and you've ruined it.
Sorry, edit.
We'll come back to that.
So it's one of those where I played it straight, and then I got to about 18, I realised I was living a very separate life from my family, who I was close with. And I got to the realisation of actually, I'm living a double life here. So I decided to come home.
In the literal sense?
Friday to Monday, I was in London, partying.
Living your best life.
All the cultural things you do as a young gay man. And my family didn't know, my parents didn't, well, my mum didn't know, who's one of my best friends. So it got to a point where our relationship was definitely waning. I remember coming home one day and she's part Italian. So my clothes are being chucked out the window, asking me to move out, all very dramatic, it's in the genes.
Because you were gay?
Because I think we were drifting apart and I was kind of not sharing what I was doing with my half of my week.
Okay.
So I knew I needed to come out and I told her. And
how did you do that? Interested.
Well, actually, I was at a party in Brighton and I just had this epiphany of actually, what am I doing? This is crazy. I need to leave here. So I said to my partner at the time, I need to go home and I need to just come clean. I don't know what, suddenly something just came in my head, went, this is enough now. So I drove down the N23 listening to Blue Monday by New Order. Okay. That was my coming out song on repeat. And Lacey woke them up. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, I need to talk to you. My mum was like, what?
This is mum and dad?
My mum, my stepdad. And my stepdad stayed upstairs at the time. I took mum into the kitchen and said, listen, I need to tell you, I'm gay. And she looked at me. I'll never forget it. She kind of looked at me and was like, well, for the first time in my life, I'm speechless. And I was like, okay. She then went, but you're my son and I love you. And I just burst into tears, as you can imagine.
So she didn't know? She
didn't know. I mean,
no recollection?
No, I mean, I made it, I was pretty good at hiding it. And it's a lot to take on. Most teenagers, when they're going through stuff, and you guys are probably able to echo this, is you finding yourself and figuring out who you are in your teenage years is difficult enough. To then navigate the being gay side of things as well and finding out where you fit. It's all a lot. It's quite consuming. But it was quite funny is she then called my stepdad down. She said, Jonathan has something to tell you. She went upstairs and he came in and he was like, what is it? What is it? And I went, I'm gay. And he went, oh, Jesus, I thought you were going to tell me you got a girl pregnant.
Oh, no.
So I clearly played the straight card very well. So, yeah. But
sigh of relief.
It was actually, yeah. But then we got joking around after a while. Like I remember going to Asda in Burheath with my mum. She would turn her lip here. She always did in the car. And she looked at me. She went, do you want some? Making jokes of it like that. And then we both laugh and have a good time. And a bit of banter around it. And then now we are super close. Grateful for her.
How old was you at that point?
18.
18.
Yeah.
Where was you in life at 18? I know you were talking about going out and living your best life in the gay culture, but what was you doing?
Still figuring it out. I was at in education trying to figure out what I wanted to do, but doing multimedia because that was something I showed an interest in, but didn't know what I was going to do with it.
Sure.
Very much in the party vibe of, let's enjoy life. So little direction at that time.
Okay. London. No.
Yeah. So
London.
I grew up in Tadworth in Surrey.
Yeah.
And then, moved to London for about 5 years with my partner. So we lived in East London, Docklands Way.
Okay.
So I could still live the London life, but then obviously come back at weekends, or wasn't every weekend. But it was nice because I wasn't hiding two different worlds anymore. And that was really, really nice.
Why do you feel like you had to hide? Obviously, other than your family, do you think there's a deeper reason why you had to hide?
Oh, for sure. And, I've had time to think about things ahead of this, actually, just to kind of understand some of my decisions in life. And I would absolutely say it's taken me a while, but I think I had quite a lot of internalized homophobia.
Okay.
My family in the main are quite conservative. I don't talk to my uncle at all. I think my mum has been amazing because she loves me. She's come around to it. But, I don't think she was overly liberal to begin with. I think it's something she adjusted to. And now she couldn't be prouder. So I want to give her the credit that she deserves because she's absolutely incredible. But I think, she grew up in a conservative household.
And I was saying this actually earlier in one our other podcast. I think as a community, we have to be maybe mindful and a bit resilient to actually, there is a generation before us. I mean, we went through Section 28 and we're going to get into that later, but they went through a whole different kind of generation where it just wasn't spoken about. It was made to be seedy. It was made to be not the norm. And, there's the whole AIDS and HIV. And so there's a lot there to unpack. And I think actually as a community, we have to be mindful of that, and as long as we can give them the education, and as long as they will accept that education, I think we're all good. The problem will be is if the generation above us don't accept that education and then just want to outrightly just refuse to acknowledge it. But it sounds like your mum is incredible. I know your mum is incredible, so
Thanks a lot, you too.
Thanks. So I think props to her for coming around. But it is sad that we even have to say that, the adults have to come around to the idea of their children being LGBT in whatever sense that might be. So that is sad. So your stepdad took it well.
Well, he has a gay brother.
Okay.
And Uncle Richard is brilliant, him and his partner Connor. And actually, I think as we've got older, I've got on more with him now. So, it's good. It's really, really good now. And I think when it comes to internalized homophobia, I think I had to work a lot on myself, because even now, sometimes lots of PDA in public, PDA. I think I can sometimes be, I don't know, when my partner is so liberal and actually been a wonderful influence on me in regards to my own phobia. He's been brilliant where he doesn't care, he would make out in the street if he could, he just doesn't. So he's super gay and proud, and actually he's helped me see the pride in me being gay too. So.
That's amazing. And good for him.
Yeah, he's fabulous.
And good for you for taking that on the chin as well. That's not a tough thing. PDA, where do you stand, Chris?
It's not for me. As we've mentioned before, and we spoke about this before, I'm very much, what I do in my home is down to me and it's nobody else's business. But out in the street, I worry more about my reaction to what people say and do, because I'm very okay with bits of banter between groups of friends and stuff. But other members of the public don't get to just say what they want because, same-sex couple are showing affection in the street. For me, most of the time it does go over my head, but you don't get to say something to my husband that's offensive or rude or and I worry about my reaction more than anything because I'm quite protective and defensive. So
self-preservation almost.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely. But what's quite interesting, and it's just something I've just picked up on in this first sort of 5 minutes of this podcast, is we use the term partner a lot. Mm-hmm. Is that something you do when you meet people and you talk about your husband? Do you use the term partner quite a lot before you do say husband?
It's a really good point. Maybe, being completely honest, if it's people I don't know, I use partner. But if it's members of my family or friends or people in my circle, I use husband or Steve. But generally, if it's to people I don't know in an audience I don't know, I say partner. Yeah.
Vince, what about you?
I am learning on this point. So I used to be partner all the time.
Yeah.
Every time. But now, I think maybe with being in this space continuously, I think I'm trying to get better at that and say husband. So we're dealing with quite a lot of contractors at the moment for at home and for other work. And a lot of the time I was using partner because I thought, these traders, I don't want to even have to have that conversation. I don't want to have to come out. But now I use husband and I think, I am going to use husband. He is my husband. And I'm proud of that. Yeah,
I'm very much on that same level as you are now. I've got to the point where husband just comes naturally. And it's, 7 years now.
I actually revel in it a little bit.
Yeah.
So if I'm on a phone call to, I don't know, Octopus Energy, I go, oh yeah, my husband. And there is a moment of pause. There is a moment of them going, okay, sure, yeah. And then they carry the conversation on. And I do secretly love that awkwardness because I think, you should.
What I quite like is when you have that conversation in person and you see the difference in reaction to some people, because they look at like someone like myself who's, athletic, tattoos, doesn't come across camp, and they're like, you what? Husband? And they have that look of, I love it. They have that look of confusion because their brain's like trying to take it in.
It's interesting you say that because I think some people, when they first me, I didn't know you was gay. And I was like, well, I've left my tutu at home. I think there is that, preconception, of you need to be a certain way to be gay. Where actually there's massive in the community. There are so many what I will term as straight gay guys that people won't identify them as gay because they're not
straight presenting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Why do you think this is even a thing? Like, where has that come from? The stereotype of a gay man. If a straight person were to have to think about that, what image would they see straight away, and why?
I actually think it's, again, another generational thing where they were so used to a certain way of things being back in, say, like the 80s, 90s, whereas you would identify somebody as gay by wearing, outrageous outfits and, partying down the street in your gold hot pants and singing a bit to Madonna.
I don't want to put prides down. We run a pride festival, absolutely love it. And not so much at ours actually, but there are pride festivals out there that, people wear what they want to wear and they present how they want to present. And I'm not taking that away from them. You do you, boo, that's great. But there is a sense of that then is portrayed to everyone.
I mean, I will take it away from them purely because I don't think we as gay men should be half naked in the street prancing about,
Yeah.
I just, that's my opinion. Why do we need to be showing that to other members of the public and children in the street? I don't think we need to.
I mean, there is an element of pride being you present how you want to present at pride, you express how you want to express. So I guess that's their opinion. That's how they would come across with that. But
being unapologetically you, I guess, is the point of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
To kind of go out there and have that time for you to be you.
Be you.
Yeah.
Is you, not you personally, but is you a person that will wear gold hot pants? And is that truly someone?
Gold isn't my colour.
Yeah, those days are done for me. I wouldn't do that again. But I have, back in the day when you lived in London, and I think, I can't say every gay man has done this, but I went through a stage when you come out, you've almost been hiding your identity for a while, that you have almost this explosion of gay where you just want to be free.
You've missed out on time.
Right. So you almost, so I think psychologically you just need to go out there and be your biggest gay self you can be.
Sure.
And I think I did that a lot in my late teens, early 20s. Almost needed to get out of my system. But, I remember being at Astoria in little pants, they weren't gold, living my best life. And would I do that now? No. But then you evolve as a person. You don't say the same.
Yeah.
So when I do see the extroverts out there going for it, almost being crazily flamboyant, I think they're just on their journey, and that might be their period of explosion of gay. They need to get out of their system. If not, carry on. But I can understand why some peeps need to go for it.
Go the extra mile.
Yeah.
I'm very much like
how they present.
As you were just saying, I didn't get that opportunity until I was 25. My first ever Pride effectively was over in Gran Canaria. In Gran Canaria Pride, I was 25 and I partied for a week and I just had a wicked time. Would I do that now? Not necessarily.
But I've
done that.
Older now, aren't we?
Speak for yourself.
Let's just face that.
When you say older, just don't to keep the E and the R on the end of that. That'd be great. Yeah.
Old.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I get it. But my point on that was very much sort of like time and a place and, acceptable and stuff. And
But my point was that is giving us a bad name as a generation, as a community as a whole, I think. That's my personal opinion.
It's correct me if I'm wrong, but almost sort of like ammunition to others to use against us.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, because then they target us with all of the same.
Oh, look, this is what it's about. When actually there's so much more to it. There's more to being gay than just prancing about in the street.
Flip the coin though. Straight people, there's so many versions of straight people. So I mean, we're all men, we're all gay men. So yeah, there's so many versions of a straight man that we then don't go, Bob down the road acts a certain way, therefore all straight men are that. Yeah. So we don't do that. They shouldn't do that to us. There we are. I'm off my soapbox now. Thank you very much. Let's talk about, because that is why we're here, talk about parenthood and our specific journeys to parenthood. Because we are all at different stages.
I'm so excited for this.
So amazing, and I love it. But start with, so we met, and obviously we'd known each other for a while, but we met at a LGBT Pathways event at the Horth, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I met Jonathan.
I can't remember how. That was where you
that's where I met Jonathan.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, that was such a good event. That was a networking event for anyone that didn't know, where surrogacy, West Sussex fostering, and South East adoption. There was also Mayo in Baxter's there for legal support. That's where we all just were. Our eyes were open to our pathways. I think you were already on a journey at that point.
Yes.
Am I right?
Correct.
Yeah. That's why you were there, because you were the guest speaker.
That's right. For the surrogacy side through a lady called Teresa.
Yes, it was. Oh, I love her.
So great lady, and she actually put an ad on one of the surrogacy groups that I was following, saying looking for IPs, which are intended parents, to tell their story, whether or not they'd had a baby at that point. There's a lot to learn from the journey, so she kind of asked us to go and share our story at that time. So that's why we went. We met your fabulous self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the rest is history, and that's it. That's all you need to know. So tell us about your story and where did it start? When did you know that you wanted a family?
Okay.
Are you both? Oh, there's so many questions. Are you both at the same level? Like, did Steve also want a family? Like, tell me everything.
Okay. So how far back do you go? So I'll try and keep this succinct, but give you everything that I think of. So Steve and I have been together 15 years, married 10 this year. And we probably knew around 6-7 years ago that actually this is something we were serious. I think Steve probably a couple of years before myself, but I knew if I ever want to start a family, it'd be with someone like Steve. I think, as parents, I think we both bring enough that would hopefully give a child everything it needs.
Yeah.
And we first went to a convention in London to do with surrogacy, and it was a massive explosion mentally to kind of get your head around, because we went into this room and there was an American company talking about surrogacy and, end to end. And they went through this amazing slides and presentations, articulating themselves brilliantly. There must have been about 50 people in this, sitting down in these chairs listening. And then they came to the last slide and talked about how much the package was. And, for $150,000, we can do this for you. So, immediately Steve and I were looking at each other like, oh my God, like, okay, save face, just keep smiling and nodding along. And you quickly realize this was going to be an expensive route if we went through America.
Sure.
And then...
Did you know it was an American company?
Yeah, they explained at the start. So you had a number of different companies there. So there was also a Canadian company offering the same package, but it was almost half the price. But when you're still talking about $80,000, it's still a lot of money. So I think we realized quite quickly that if we wanted to go down the surrogate IVF route, we would have to start saving.
Yeah.
There was obviously adoption there and fostering, but I think we kept coming back to the same conclusion with adopting is, and whether people feel this is right or wrong, but for us personally, to have a child and invest emotionally, financially, mentally, give them everything, but to still have I guess, a lifeline to their biological parents, that mainly in the reasons that we understood was they came to you was due to domestic violence or drug issues or whatever, kind of concerned us that they would still have that influence. And we knew of other parents who had adopted, IPs who had adopted, that having that lifeline with the biological parents actually was causing issues, because they would get a form of a letter, I believe, and they would read that, and then one of the letters read that the biological parents had actually started a new family and had another child.
Yeah,
so obviously that's triggering for the adopted child, because they're like, questions, why me? Why did I give me up? All of that.
Yeah.
And I just think, selfishly or not, that wasn't the right route for us. So,
and that's fine. That is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
That's that's your journey, and you're allowed your own route.
So we ended up saving, and then luckily the parents helped us out, and we managed to find an egg donor and created 5 embryos. And we were very fortunate. We managed to create 5 blastocyst embryos, which are, in the world of fertility, great quality embryos.
Brilliant.
So we were kind of like, woohoo, okay, that's a good first step. And I think we went with I would encourage anyone that starts this journey to look in the clinics that they want to go to and do your research. I would absolutely encourage you to do that. So I don't know if we're going to say names, but I went with a London clinic. Steve and I went with a London clinic, and they were put on ice until we found ourselves a surrogate. And luckily we did through a friend during COVID. So we did a lot of FaceTiming. So did this get to know with them. And, we had a couple of attempts, and unfortunately we miscarried. And I think on one of the occasions we had a miscarriage, so the embryo went quite far along, and she then had to have a flush, and it meant that things in her body had to change. We had to wait a long time. And I think eventually what we started to see was she's a friend, and we watched her mentally start to suffer a bit.
Yes, yeah.
And we were kind of like, look, enough's enough. So we put a pin in that. And then
Well, that was hard, no?
Yeah, it was.
Because I would imagine at the time that was your option. Did you have any other options at that point?
No.
No.
And so you get to a point where you have to think of the person one thing that amazes me about surrogates is they are literally giving you their body, and it takes a certain kind of person to do that. So the respect I have and the love we have, we were kind of like, actually, that person needs to recharge, because they were starting to question, they were failing. Is it their fault? And that's not what you want.
It's physical and mental, isn't it? That's why.
Yeah. So we did, at the risk of obviously having no other option. So we went back on certain groups. We even joined. So in America, you actually have them as businesses, but in the UK, it's slightly different in terms of how they operate. So you can't, sounds really wrong, but you can't buy a womb, if you like.
Yeah, sure.
So it's very much a case of you join these organizations that basically facilitate the journey, and they have something called expenses that the surrogate will let you know what it will be to be able to help you on your journey, because obviously there is a financial implication for them because of their time off work, their appointments, all that sort of stuff. So we invested in that, and we're very grateful that actually we got to meet kind of what they call socials, lots of other IPs and surrogates.
Can you talk to me about that?
Sure.
Talk to me about that room, that atmosphere, and how it was felt for you. I mean, it's not felt for everyone, and everyone, walks into those rooms feel differently. But for you, how was that?
So I'd like to think that Steve and I are, we're pretty confident people. We're outgoing. We know how to hold ourselves. But this isn't taking anything away from the organization. But you have to be willing to understand that it's a tough one, because you can go to a social and it might have 100 people there, of which there are, I'd probably say, and this is just me guessing, don't have the true facts, but probably about 80% of that will be IPs and 20% might be surrogates.
Okay.
And there is an element of everyone wants to get to know the surrogates, because that's the purpose of why they're there. Some people have been coming 6 months. So some people might be their first social. So there is definitely, it's a tough one, because you have to get in there, but you don't want to be too keen. It's a minefield, especially if you're an introvert or you're not overly confident or your style isn't that.
Sure.
It might not be the right setting or the right environment for you to be at your best.
So the idea is that you speak with all these surrogates, or IPs speak to their surrogates, or the surrogates talk to the IPs, and you match.
So I believe that word is a dirty word. Ooh. So we don't use that word. And I was consciously going to try and tell myself to not use that word,
Here
so I'm glad no, but it's good. You don't know. Yeah, so it's good that, but they don't like that word.
Okay.
I can't remember what other word to use, but that word I remember. So you do I think how it works is you get to know in those environments. How it's facilitated is the direction and of it is done via the surrogate. So if the surrogate likes you, they will contact one of the facilitators. That facilitator will then contact you guys and say, there is someone who would like to get to know you. And then you get to know. I believe they say get to know should be 3 to 6 months. And that will discuss everything from, I guess, things like expenses, lifestyle choices, whether they're the right fit, because some surrogates actually want to be close to their IPs and be a part of their lives or their journeys.
Yeah.
Other surrogates, I think, treat it much more transactional, don't necessarily want the relationship at the end of it. Once they're done, they're done. So I guess you've got to find the right connection and make sure that's what the get to know usually is. And then if all goes well with that, I believe you then come together and then you start trying and, fingers crossed. And, I have to give it to organizations that do this, because they are providing an opportunity and facilitating that. I think the concerns you always have to have is, one, that's quite a tough environment to be in, but also the cost. IVF alone costs tens of thousands of pounds. And then on top of that, you then have some expenses. They vary between surrogate, depending on their needs and their lifestyles and everything like that. But, some surrogates may have an expense of up to £6,000. I've seen others that go up to nearly £20,000. So if you're talking, say, 20K for IVF and then 20K for expenses, someone's looking at 40K to be able to have as disposable income to do that journey. And it's not necessarily affordable for everyone.
No.
So, yeah.
And that's massively challenging, I think, for gay men specifically. Lesbians, IVF is for everyone, right? It's not just for gay men or the LGBT community, but for lesbians, obviously, they have half of the facility, but we don't. So I think that is a really, really tricky, if surrogacy is what you want to do, obviously the other pathways, fostering, adoption, they have their own complications. But I think for surrogacy, the cost and the competitive nature, dare I say it, for being a surrogate or an IP is really difficult. And I think actually really emotionally taxing. So I would love to know what the ratio, the percentage is of how many people start that journey and stop.
We know of couples that have, just because it's draining. We know couples that are split through that. That's one thing I'll say about Steve and I is we have been pretty resilient. We're still on the journey. It's our goal. We want to be parents.
So how many years are you down the line now?
This will be our 6th year.
Mate, that's a lot.
It is a lot. And I think a lot of our focus on our life has been centered around trying to start a family. So a lot of things have been put on pause. And I think the best way to explain it, and I've said this to people that maybe don't understand, is I call it waiting at the bus stop.
Okay.
What's happening is right now, Steve and I are at the bus stop, and we've seen many friends also waiting at the bus stop, but they get on the bus and they're now on the bus and they're on the journey. And we're still waiting at the bus stop for our turn to get on. Yeah. And it's tough because you're happy for everyone else.
Sure.
You're like, why can't we punch our ticket? Why can't we get on? So yeah, it's been a lot. And you mentioned earlier about for lesbian couples and straight couples, they get it on the NHS. Straight couples get, I think, 3 opportunities on the NHS. And I believe lesbians also, it's much easier because I think they can, with regards to getting sperm and cost-wise, but I'm pretty sure I know a lesbian couple that have got it on the NHS too. And for gay couples, there is no facility for NHS.
How is that fair?
I know.
That's discrimination in its own.
We have to go privately. Yeah.
Right, leave it with me.
Yeah. Get on that, please.
Come on.
Someone make a note.
So you're still trying.
Yeah.
That's the end goal. Surrogacy. Have you ever tried fostering or adoption?
No. Okay. We have looked at it and revisited it, and I think we just come to the same conclusion that this is the pathway. So yes, at the moment, it's still the goal.
Okay. Chris, I'm going to turn it to you now, mate. Talk to me about your journey, because I know you've had a journey too.
Yeah, we're very much, like Jonathan, we're 4 years down the line now. As far as being a parent, it was always something I've always wanted, and I made it very clear to James, my husband, when we first got together, I want children. And that's something you need to have in your mind. Not right now, but it needs to be at least something. Yeah. And he was very accepting of that. He was there. James, I'm very fortunate James isn't worried about sort of the DNA aspect. He's a parent, that's it. Whereas for me, I want my own children. I want my DNA. And that's always something I've been persistent on.
Which is also fine. You're allowed.
Yeah. And we started our journey, again, 4 years ago. After we got married, we had that chat around what's the next step for us, and we decided fostering was that step. Went through every single hoop, every single stage, and then we got to the stage before you go to the decision. You have to do this parent course.
The panel. You have to go to the panel.
Yeah, so you have to do a parent course just before that. It's a couple of days, and straight off the bat, we got there, and we were judged straight away for being a same-sex couple.
So it wasn't just same-sex couples, it's everyone.
Yeah, anyone that wanted to foster was invited once they got to that certain step. So once they'd gone through referencing and everything else. So we got there and we were judged straight away. Like you could feel it, you could hear it, you knew it was happening around you. The person who was delivering the course was reading it out of a manual. I mean, that didn't fill me with confidence that you're reading out of a book to tell me how to parent. And then, unfortunately for us, I'd asked a question within this course, which I think was a very valid question, and it was around dealing with violent children. Now, a lot of children that go into foster care come from traumatic backgrounds. Again, like you say, violence. They've had a rough time.
Yeah,
and a lot of them can be violent. That is something you've got to expect. And I asked a question around how we deal with that and what's the expectation for foster parents.
Yeah.
And it was taken in a negative light. It was taken in because of the work that I do, it was taken in a light of, you just want to restrain children. Well, no, that wasn't what I said. What I said was, how do we deal with it? What's the expectation? Because ultimately, they're not your child. They are the responsibility of the services, but you are looking after them. So what do you expect from us? And it got, I wouldn't say heated, but it got quite a discussion around this topic. And they gave me I gave them an example. I said, the child is, say, smashing up the living room, for instance, they're having an episode. What do you want me to do? And their answer was, remove yourself and call the police. So you want me to remove myself from my house, my home, put them in a dangerous position, and then bring the police in, which they've probably already had a negative
traumatic experience.
Past with. And it just didn't sit well with me. That unfortunately got referred to a manager within the services who had to review the case to see if we were still suitable. And I said to James, I'm not doing this. We haven't even got to the point where we're looking after one of the children yet. And they're being like that. I just said no. We left it for a little while, and then we revisited it, and we had a conversation around it. And the next step for us is surrogacy. So we are going to be starting that journey. We've got a couple of friends that have said that they will step in and assist us with our journey. And I mean, I smile every time because it's just, the goal has been there for such a long time. And yeah, I want to get to that point now. We are so ready. We've been together 7 years, married for 5, both in decent jobs. We've got the house. Like we are literally, the next step for us is parenthood. But as you said before, as gay men, we have to jump through lots of hoops to get there.
Yeah.
Jeremy asked Chris, so are you guys thinking of doing gestational surrogacy or traditional? So that's using a donor's egg, creating embryos, and then obviously using the surrogate's womb if you like to grow it, or are you actually going to use her egg as well with turkey-based style kind of?
Yeah, again, we've had this conversation. Yeah, we were looking at a traditional route, but we are open to all options. Like I said, the end goal is just, we want to be parents. So whatever it takes to get there is what we're going to do now.
Okay.
So, James fulfills his wish of being a parent. I fulfill mine of being a parent, but with my DNA. So,
Nice.
I'm buzzing, quite excited. And I owe this to you as well, Vince, because we've seen your journey, and that's kind of enlightened us to want to go down that route.
That's nice. Thanks, mate.
Because you've been through this journey. You've
We're still there, mate.
Yeah.
We're still on that journey.
Yeah.
But
My
gone
baby
through
is
all
now
of
1,
this,
but we're still there.
all this backstage stuff, if you like.
Yeah.
And you're now on the main stage of it, whereas we're still sort of backstage trying to get on the main stage.
My advice to anyone going through specifically a surrogacy journey, no, actually, anyone going through, a gay man going through a parenthood journey, would be to look at every option, surrogacy, fostering, adoption, to look at in those categories what pathways you then need to take, because there are specifically surrogacy, loads of different routes that you can go down, and it has to be right for you. When you then are lucky enough to find your angel, your surrogate, you then need to have that conversation with them and talk about what pathways together that you're going to go down. Yeah. So my advice would be to make sure that you are keep an open mind, like you said, have just the world at your feet, and just don't close off any door, because at one moment something could take.
Yeah,
that would be my advice. But yeah, it's tough.
But I've got a question for you, if you don't mind.
Hit me up.
Just because you've been through.
I'm an open book.
How did you establish that trust level with your surrogate?
With my surrogate, I was very lucky in the fact that I already knew my surrogate. But I say this in the best way. I knew my surrogate, but I wasn't overly friendly with my surrogate. And I think that can blur lines from the beginning. Obviously, I'm now very much overly friendly with my surrogate. But at the beginning, we knew of each other and we were friendly with each other. And there were elements of our lives that actually crossed paths in many ways. But we wasn't shadowing each other. We weren't best friends. And I think that can be quite complicated. But building that trust is that you were talking about earlier, was having that time to build that relationship.
Yeah.
It does take time. We had a foot in the door because we already knew her. Tyler, my husband, didn't
Yeah.
know her. So there was an element that we had to do that getting to know me phase for him. But oh my God, anyone that knows my husband knows that he's laying down most of the time. He's so chill, he can care. So as long as I had done the work and as long as I had done the research and as long as I was happy, he was happy. And that is amazing. But he loved him. He just had full trust in me.
Yeah.
And the second that he met our surrogate, was just in love with the journey. So
And that's kind of what James has done, really. He's kind of gone, it's like, you thought that, but as much as he wants it still, he's so like you said, like Tyler, very laid back and very, no, I want the journey with you, but you can do the, you can do the hard work.
Yeah. It's busy lives. We've all got busy lives. But yeah, my journey was quite seamless in a way. I think we had our own challenges, but nothing compared obviously to yours, Jonathan. And I think it's quite fair to say that, journey, no matter the milestones or the challenges, it's your story. And I think you have to be proud of yours. You have to be proud of yours. I have to be proud of mine. Yes, my story might have been a lot shorter than some people's, but there were still challenges in that. I'm now finding the challenge is come, and I'm sure this will be for both of you if you're both lucky enough, obviously, to fall pregnant, is the after bit.
Yeah.
Tyler is not legally Oakley's dad. That's hard for him, that's hard for me, and that's hard for our surrogate. And we don't know anyone else that has gone through this journey this far. And hopefully I can, give you all of the advice and the support through that.
You've just touched on there where obviously you say Tyler isn't Oakley's dad, technically. Just elaborate legally a little bit more for the people watching, because some people won't understand what you mean by that.
Sure. So we decided to... You used the term turkey baster earlier. There is a home insemination kit.
There is, yeah.
That's probably the better term.
That's the better term, people.
Yeah. So we chose...
No, we'll go with turkey
All
baster.
right, okay.
We chose that route just because it fit for us.
Yeah.
And we don't have that money. We haven't got that expense. And we're owning up to that. But so we chose the home insemination. We were lucky enough to fall quite quickly. Our pregnancy was quite seamless. And I say that not to rub it into people that isn't, that's our story. And again, I'm owning that. But now that he is born, he's only just turned one. He's just turned one, which is amazing. So that's wild. That's gone so quickly. But when he is born, if your surrogate doesn't have a husband, then the surrogate and yourself, the DNA person, will go on to the birth certificate if the surrogate wants to.
So, and how, if you can you change that legally later on down the line for you both to be on the birth certificate?
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now, and that is what's a challenge for me. And I have to be careful what I say, because we've just got the court date through, which is incredible. And I did have a little cry, but I don't want to jinx it, obviously. And there's nothing stopping Tyler to go onto this birth certificate. But I also don't want to speak ill of the process.
No,
However, the process to legally have Tyler on the birth certificate has not been an easy one. And I have felt that there have been times where we have been judged in the process, in the system. And I am purposefully being vague because I don't want to rock the boat for anyone. But so basically your child is born. I went on the birth certificate straight away. You go down and register your child. After that, you can file paperwork basically to the court. And we've got Oakley's birth certificate, and on the birth certificate it says my name, Hayley's name, and not Tyler's. Obviously, once we get the new birth certificate, that one will have Tyler's name and my name, and it will supersede? That's the right word? Yeah, supersede the old birth certificate, but the old birth certificate will still be in the system and still can be found if that child wants to at a later date. But to get there is hard. Yeah. Harder because we don't know what we're doing.
I mean, so you are the first, but obviously when we went to these seminars and part of these organizations, it's called a parental order.
Yes.
And what I found really unusual for your circumstance actually is we'd heard when you'd have legal people come and talk about that it takes no more than 3 to 6 months. And yet what I know you've gone through, I'm kind of like, okay.
I mean, it might be an isolated incident. And I don't want to take it away from any organization. They are doing amazing work. For us, it was just very slow. So the process of that was CAFCAS was involved. And we had a representative from them. I had to be interviewed. Tyler had to be interviewed. We live with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law lives with me. What's the point? What's to us? And she had to be interviewed. Our CAFCAS representative had to come to our house. She had to make sure our house was suitable. She asked questions like, what was my support system? What's Tyler's support system? Like, it's deep. It goes deep. They ask about your finances, not as deep as what fostering adoption is, I think. But we were asked about that. We were asked about health. So for me, as someone that was so passionate about having a baby and a family, to then, and genetically be that baby's dad, to then kind of almost get a bit of a backhand and say, we need a DNA test to prove that you're the dad. I know I'm the dad. Do you have a DNA test for everyone that comes through the door? No, you don't. I'm sure you don't. Like, no one that is in a straight family has to have a DNA test.
Yeah, and
we do.
And I think a lot of people won't understand this process because they're not going through it. So straight couples would never understand this process because then they're not the ones going through it. And I think, like, obviously, just to bring the mood up a little bit, I can see how obviously emotionally it is because I can feel it from you. How did you feel when Oakley was born? Describe that for us that are about to go through it. Hopefully,
it's life changing, mate. Like, prepare yourself mentally and physically. The moment he was born, it was like nothing else mattered. And this is going to get really cheesy now, but it was like nothing else mattered. The journey that we're on was super organic, and all of a sudden this incredible human is in the room and nothing else mattered because he is all that mattered in that moment, in that time. And it's so beautiful. And if you don't cry, then I don't know.
I'm already feeling the emotion coming from you.
Get this man a tissue. You can see,
it's an incredible moment. And you're sharing that moment with your surrogate as well.
Yeah.
And your surrogate feels all of those emotions and heightened because she's literally giving birth to a baby. So there's a lot of gratitude. There's a lot of weight lifted off your shoulders. There's a lot of love in the room. There's a lot of concern because now you're becoming a dad and you don't know what you're doing. All of the feelings that any couple get. It's honestly, it's the best feeling in the world. And I can't wait for you both to enjoy that.
Excited.
It's exciting. But just to brush up on the whole parental order process, it is an isolated incident. So that's not everyone's experience. That's our experience. We just felt like we were being judged, I guess, in a way, for going through what we went through. It was almost like we were doing something wrong and had to prove ourselves as parents.
That's kind of where we felt with the fostering aspect.
Yeah,
definitely.
So, interestingly, you say that, put it out when you go to the IVF clinics and you're filling in the forms, you have to do all these blood tests. None of the forms, they're all Mr. and Mrs. And in terms of the married side of things, there was no option to put husband and husband or any of that. So it's interesting how we even fed that back and said, look, you need to update your forms. And they agreed, but everything is still not where it should be.
And that's the same in the NHS as well. I think there is more options for husband, pronouns, all of that. It is more inclusive. But we did come across a lot of milestones, a lot of challenges, I should say, where it was not inclusive, even down to, we talk about it, me and my surrogate talk about it all the time, the folder that you get, your birthing folder, is mum and dad, is, your norm. I hate that word, but your norm. But you carry that. I carry that out of the hospital, having to hide that because I'm not a mum and dad. I mean, I'm a very sensitive guy. And so that is where I would go. Maybe some people are just, don't care about that. But Luckily, me and our surrogate have been invited up to the hospital to give a case study, and hopefully we can make some change. So by the time yours journeys, come to light, hopefully we've made a bit of change.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Gosh, we got deep.
That was deep. Yeah.
We got deep there. I'm so sorry about that.
No, it's good. Let's do it.
Should I ask a couple of questions?
Go for it.
First thing you had to unlearn after coming out.
Ooh. Waking up every morning, I don't know if you guys did this. I used to wake up before I came out and I knew that I was gay. I used to wake up in the mornings and I would almost hate the fact that I am gay. It's really weird. I used to wake up and I'd be like, oh God, I am gay. It wasn't a dream sort of thing. And for a long time, I'd wake up in the morning. Do you get that?
Yeah.
In the morning, I used to, and it's not until I actually came out and started feeling love for my family and stuff that I stopped waking up feeling like it wasn't okay. So I think it was undoing that in the mornings, waking up and being, this is okay. This is good. This is all right. Yeah.
Chris?
I think very much was unlearning that, not that I weren't normal, but unlearning that different is okay. And I was good with that. I had to learn to not cope with it, but accept it and stop. Like I said, like Jonathan said, waking up in the mornings going, oh my God, you're gay. Oh God. Give yourself a bit of confidence. So unlearning that actually being different was okay.
Nice. God.
Yourself,
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know, actually. I live probably for the better naively. I always have, even down to business. And we're not here to talk about business, but I don't really look at competition in business. So again, that's just a naive thing. And I think that's probably why I've got to the point that I have, because I'm not too worried about other people in terms of competition, never have done. So in terms of your story, that's probably not something that I kind of resonate with because I've never had to. Something I've had to unlearn. It's probably not from before, but just not being scared, I think, of going out and about, being in clubs, holding my husband's hand if I want to, before I would be. A lot. I mean, we're not PDA anyway, but yeah, I think that's probably what I would say, had to unlearn, actively unlearn in my brain. Another question? When you go home at night, you close the door from a hard day at work, you might sit down for a glass of wine, dinner. What does queer joy then mean to you? Like all the silence in the world has gone. What is peace in your households?
Intimacy with my husband. God, that sounds cheesy.
Wow, here he is.
So yeah, one of the things I absolutely love about my relationship is the connection, the intimacy, the love we have for each other, the laughs we have. We have such good banter. I'd say most evenings before bed, we're laughing. Wake up in the morning, we're having a laugh. I think, there is so much queer joy in the relationship that I have. And so as cheesy as that is, and he'll probably be smiling when he watches this, that is my queer joy for sure.
Oh, I love that. Chris?
Now, if you was to ask that question to James, he would give exactly that answer. He's very affectionate, very cuddly, and some days I'm like, I am overstimulated, don't touch me. That's just how my work is. But he knows that, and he can read that straight away. As soon as I walk in, he's like, okay, yeah, you need a bath and some wine, and then I'm fine. But that's my bit of joy is a hot bubble bath, some wine.
Oh, the peace, the quiet.
Just switch off. Just
decompress.
Half an hour of just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Just let me have my moment. Or for me, one of my biggest bits of joy is that going to the gym, I just put my headphones in and I just have my time. And I think that's very important, especially in our relationships. It's very much, you need to have your own bit of time.
Nice.
But as far as home goes, certainly bath, wine, chill, cuddle up, watch TV.
Oh, you too, Soppy. That's cute.
I think we should.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, I'm with you there, but I think for me,
but not too much. Cuddle.
For me, it's you come in through the door. You've both had a really stressful day. You have dinner. You watch TV. You don't have to say anything to each other, but you
nice.
Get it. That is my queer joy at home. You just understand. You just know.
Has your queer joy changed since Oakley has been?
I mean, I don't get a second to think. So
Okay.
that whole queer joy, peacefulness is gone.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really gone.
Okay.
Don't know when that will come back. Me and Tyler are still a unit. And I think actually in some ways it's brought us closer. Me and Tyler are closer than we have ever been, because all of a sudden it's not about you anymore. It's about him, about Oakley.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it does change.
I was going to say, as a couple, you've had to adapt as parents? Do you guys still make time for you?
It's hard. It is really hard, actually.
Do you have like the support network where you could say, I don't know, to say maybe a parent, could you look after Oakley this evening so we can go out and have dinner?
Yeah, we have done.
And you actively do that?
Yeah,
now?
we have done. But me and Tyler, fortunately, have our own businesses and we're busy, and we were very strong, and this isn't for everyone, but we were very strong that we didn't want to let that go. We still wanted to be, I still wanted to be Vince that everyone knows. Tyler wanted to be the Tyler that everyone knows. And when we're at home with Oakley, we are the power couple that are parenting him. And I think that's okay. But at the same time, you get wrapped up in that rat race all the time. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we have had nights where we've been out, there's been weddings that we've been to and we've had a best time, but there is probably only on one hand I could count that has happened within this year. So, and also they're only little for so long. You don't want to miss that. So you can go out, live your best life, and your child can be with a childminder or with my mum or with a good friend or whoever, but you want to be there. You want to experience that. So there's finding that balance.
No, knowing you both as I do, who's the stricter one?
Mm-hmm. Do you know what it changes? It really does. So I think, and those that know me know that obviously I also teach, have done for a long time. I think I am more disciplined. I wouldn't say strict. I would say more disciplined. I like routine for myself. Therefore, I will put that onto, into our family. Tyler is a lot freer. Like he will just go with the punches. He'll roll with it. But flip a coin. And if, I can, not so much now because he's so small, but I can imagine it being, if Oakley does something wrong, Tyler will be there and he will parent.
Yeah.
Whereas I might be a little bit more lenient because he might cry.
Okay.
But in a day-to-day, I'm the one holding up the house. I think I'm the one making, the rules. We need to be in bed by this time. So I think disciplined me, strict Tyler. Don't know, you find your way. You find a way. What do you think you two would be?
James is going to be the strict one.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I'll be the pushover, I reckon. Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm so used to having to display that authoritative persona in the work that I do.
Yeah.
I don't think that will.
So you'll be the fun one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I have
Not saying James is boring by any means. No. But yeah, I think
I have seen that when Tyler walks through the door, Oakley is full of smiles and he's full of laughs because he comes home from work and he plays and he goes for a bath and he has all of the lovely positive moments. I'm with him more. So I'm probably the one that is instilling all of that discipline. Therefore, I'm probably not the fun one.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Some of the time. Yeah. What about you?
Sure. Well, I think Steve and I will probably be a mix, actually, because I'm more similar to you in terms of I structure, I plan, I organize. I got the spreadsheets. Steve's much more creative and
free flowing.
Yeah, I agree. So, as much as it pains me to say it, I think our children would probably class Steve as the more fun one. I think I might be more the structured, disciplined one, but I might put the onus on Steve sometimes just to mix it up. I'd be like, your turn.
You have to. You've got to mix it up.
Yeah, I can't always be me.
No, absolutely. So, okay, and this is my last question. Then I'm going to open it up to the audience. Okay, what gay misconception? I think we might have spoken about this actually earlier. What gay misconception do you wish the world would unlearn? So not us, but the world.
I think very much we touched on it earlier. It's that whole misconception. It's seedy. It's all about dancing in the street half naked and partying, and there is so much more to our community than just that. And I think we need to help educate, and people need to open their mind to that, because that just comes from a lack of education. as we've said
100%.
previously. And I think we can educate people on that.
Yeah, I echo that. I think for some reason there is this preconception that everything to do with our community is sex. Even when it comes down to, and it's exhausting sometimes having the same conversation, is about trans community wanting to use the correct bathroom or restroom to them.
Sure.
And the people put it down to it being something related to, you can't do that because they could be trying to, and it's not. They just want to have a private space where they can use.
Yeah.
It's not anything to do with that.
Yeah.
And I hate having to articulate that point all the time. That if someone thinks it's all about sex, it's probably a reflection on their thinking.
100%.
I agree. Yeah.
Rather than anything to do with that person wanting to use said bathroom.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. I think preconception that this community is all about sex.
I think I'm going to go more personal. I know I said not, but I think mine is, especially now with Oakley, and obviously we stand out in a crowd with 2 dads and a baby. And we're very open about that also. Like, we're not PDA, but we do have a child and we do show that. It's having to come out all the time. So if there is a world that we can live in where we don't have to go, yeah, we're 2 dads. Yeah, we're both gay. This is my coming out story. Like, the questions we get asked is outrageous.
On that, actually,
Which one's the mum? Is the one?
I was just going to ask that. Which one? Because I feel like this is a question that is very personal, but I feel like with certain people, they feel entitled to ask it, which is, so who's the biological father?
Yeah.
And I imagine, for you and Tyler, it's absolutely fine. But there'll be some couples out there that may not want to have that conversation or discuss
No, it's
that.
on the same. I'm going to get a bit vulgar here, so do turn off. But it's this. I put it in the same category, not sexualizing it, but in the same category as who's top, who's bottom.
Yeah,
Like, it's so harsh. It's so invasive. You shouldn't be asking that question.
Yeah, it's a need to know basis, and you don't need to know.
Yeah, this is my family unit. We're proud of it, and we're going to stand with it. Gosh, it's all a deep, isn't it? Right, audience questions.
Let's go for it.
It's your turn. Hello, I forgot you were there.
Is there anything you wish more people understood about surrogacy?
Oh my gosh, where do I start? That it is open for same-sex couples. I know that's really vague, but I think it's not spoken about enough, especially in our community as gay men, because it is almost assumed that because you're men, you're not going to have children. And I've had that personally in our circles, that before they obviously knew that I was so passionate about having a family, when we said that we were going to have a family, they were like, what? You can't have a family. There's no mum. Well, that is a misconception to start with, because everyone around us is female, and therefore Oakley gets more than enough maternal energy. That is for sure.
Yeah, we had, you shouldn't have children. We've had that in our circle.
Because you're 2 men.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
I'll aim this at our community, especially other gay men, is embrace it and explore that option. It's there for us. We can. It's an option to parenthood. Explore it. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to find that information or speak to people like Vince who have been through that journey. It's an option for us now. It's 2026. Let's explore it. And don't be afraid to. Definitely.
I think I'm trying to figure out how to word this correctly. So we have got a great family unit and friends, and we've got women in our lives that we've been asked before, well, why doesn't one of those women in your lives do it? You've got lots of friends and stuff like that. And we've had conversations with certain friends of ours, and theirs has always been they just don't know how they could ever grow a baby and give that said child away. And it's an absolutely valid point, because it's a big ask. So I guess to answer the question, as a surrogate yourself, could you maybe answer how you are able to do that for other people? And also, I can say this, do it again for another couple. How do you get your head around doing that?
I think you have to. There's a difference between, like where you say you have a friend, oh, why couldn't they be your surrogate? And they have that worry of being able to hand the baby over. I think if that is your worry, you're not a surrogate.
Right.
If you don't have that worry, you're able to be a surrogate.
Yeah.
And I think that's, and personally for me, being a lesbian, being in a community where I know I have friends and peers and people that I love that are struggling and can't have a family, and I'm here with a womb, with eggs, and I can help that lovely couple have a child, why wouldn't I? My personal opinion. And I think you have to be a surrogate to want to be a surrogate. It has to be in you, I think.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that's it. I think some people just couldn't get their heads around it, but you articulate that beautifully. Is I think you have to have that mindset to be able to start that journey. So yeah.
I think, and just adding on the personal praise, hearing it from you there is quite, it's quite nice. It's quite personal. It's reassuring as well.
You're amazing.
You are amazing.
Stop, guys, stop.
Any other questions?
So my question, and you kind of touched on this twice, and actually just in the last question, it was briefly brought up, is I imagine, like, particularly as a panel of gay men, you're quite aware of like the stigma of having not only an unconventional family, but having two parental figures with neither of them being a woman. What would your response be to someone who has an earnest curiosity, so not someone who's bigoted, to that question of if they think it's necessary for them to have or somehow like unethical to have a family without a like overt female figure in the life, and particularly when it comes to if you have a little girl rather than a little boy, although we know that's variable. But yeah, how would you respond to that as an earnest question if it was to somehow come up?
So I didn't have I can only talk about my experience. I didn't have a conventional upbringing. So my mum fell pregnant with me at 16. Back then, 16 was a very young age to have a child. My dad unfortunately died in a motorbike accident while my mum was pregnant. So she was a single parent. And I would say as an only child, as a single mum, some people will perceive that to be very unconventional, to not have a father figure in your life, to have the 2.4 family upbringing. And the way I see it is I got the love and I got the respect from my mum, and she brought me up with values and manners the best way she could. And I think there are some families that have everything, the 2.4, and don't get that right. So I don't actually think you need to have that to achieve the correct goal.
For me, Steph, great question, honestly. And there's lots of people that have already asked those sort of questions with us, and they've given us that. Well, what about what if? And one of the questions we had was, well, what if you have a little girl? We're like, oh yeah, well, we kind of do need to think about that, because there'll be things that little girl will go through in life that we may not know the answers to or questions to. But we do have a lot of strong females in our families where they would be able to ask those questions, and our support network is strong, and we're very fortunate for that. And I think that would be our go-to if those questions were asked, if we did have a little girl, So
but also think about the single dads out there with a little girl. Mm-hmm. They're in the same situation. Like, I don't think it's just relatable to two gay men or two women. I think actually it's relatable for a single parent, and they don't get asked that question. They don't get that judgment of, oh, you're a single dad, what are you going to do about the mother figure? Like, I think interesting question.
Yeah.
Before I do a guest question, have you got a question?
I do. I have a question for you. Now that you're in that parenthood, you've got your little one who's a year old.
Yes, I've got the bags to prove it under my eyes.
Are you, or will you have any more?
Ooh. So this is a hot question in my household right now. So a lot of people have babies under two, because some people's opinions are, in the long run, is easier. In the short run, not so much. I think for us, as I said earlier, we are both very busy people, and we just can't. We're two gay men. We don't get the maternity that a woman does. Therefore, we have to finance it. We've just put all our money into our beautiful boy. We did put some cash away and we had some savings for that. So we were able to take some time off. Luckily, we both own our businesses. So we were able to kind of curate our own wave of paternity leave. I think that is being or trying to be changed in government, that paternity leave. But right now, it's not there for us. So will we have any more is the question. I would say it's really hard and it's situational. Ideally, yes, is the answer. Situationally, I don't know right now. Because we can give Oakley the world right now. We could give 2 children the world in half. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the reason I asked that is because, he'll kill me for saying this, James wants a football team. Like, he wants loads. And I'm like, you're going to change your mind after the first one.
It changes your life. It really changes your life. And actually, for the better, obviously, it changes your life, but you are exhausted. I obviously did not breastfeed. So props to the women out there that are breastfeeding and doing it on their own. Like, it's hard. Being a dad is hard. Trying to run a business and still work and bring in the money to pay the bills, to pay the mortgage, to run a life is even harder. So have one and then figure that out.
Then ask yourself that question.
So before Oakley, was the plan always 2, 3? But then since having Oakley, it's changed slightly.
No, I don't think we had a number in our head.
Okay.
I think, definitely me. I can't really speak for Tyler other than the conversations we've had, but having a child as 2 gay men is really difficult. And we are so privileged, so lucky, and we're full of gratitude that we are able to have Oakley in our lives now. That having a second one, there is an option for that. And we're lucky that there is an option for that, but anything can change between now and then. Yeah. We're very strong in the fact that we actually can't have a child between now and probably when he starts school anyway. So we've got a good couple of years at least. He's at nursery now. He's only there 2 days a week. If he went, 5 days a week and I had the extra time, maybe, but there is no way that I could run my life with 2. And that, everyone's very different, but I couldn't right now. But yeah, 2 would be lovely. We wouldn't have any more. So 2 would be the number. We have to wait and see. Our surrogate might not even be in the position to do so. We might not be in the position to do so.
Can I ask you one more?
Go on.
Just one more. Just because obviously where we are on our journeys. What's been your favourite positive, oh my God moment since Oakley's been born?
What, about the process or about parenthood?
About parenthood.
So there are times when we are playing on the floor and I would just be laying on the floor and he would climb all over me like a climbing frame. And if I could bottle his laugh when he's doing it, I would.
And did I see correctly recently he's just taken his first steps?
He's now walking, yeah. Oh. Which is a whole challenge within itself.
Now he's everywhere.
Now he's everywhere. We've got gates everywhere. He wants to get into every cupboard. He wants to pull out all of the boxes that we've got on the floor. He puts them away, which is very handy. But yeah, he's everywhere. But yeah, I think it's the laughter that we have. Yeah. Thanks for asking that, mate. That's lovely. So every guest has given a question, as you know, to pass on to another guest. I have them in front of me. I want you to choose 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then I'm going to get you to answer it.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, or 4. Think wisely.
Let's go with 4.
Wow, what a great option. So, was there a character from a film, TV, or book that you had a secret crush on before you came out or just as you were new on the scene?
So, yeah, I'd like to call it my gay awakening, was Batman and Robin. So I always remember Chris O'Donnell as Batman. as Robin, and I think it was George Clooney as Batman, and everyone was always about Batman, but I was firmly all about Robin.
Ooh.
And there was a scene where he, I must have been 12 or 13, but there's a scene where he is cleaning his clothes and he's using his feet to do it and tie him up on the thing. And it was just the movement of the male form and the body. And I was like, yeah, I'd really like to get to know Robin. So, yeah, I think I knew at that point. Yeah.
I love that answer so much. What about you, Chris?
Do you know what? I generally don't know.
No?
Growing up, I don't really kind of remember, to be honest.
Mine was, I mean, I am all about Batman,
Okay.
but Superman. Superman. Now, I said this earlier to my colleague and she was weirded out, but Simba.
As in the cartoon?
Well, kind of, but not obviously the animal.
Like
Do you know what? Yeah, from The Lion King. But the... Okay, hang on. Wait.
Cut that bit.
So I'm a theatre kid, born and bred. Lion King was one of the first that I saw. So Simba in the musical theatre production
Right.
is, you know.
Okay.
But then when you watch the cartoon, you relate that to the stage version.
I must admit, I had a little bit of a crush, to be honest. Growing up watching like the Fast and Furious movies.
Okay.
Paul Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was the blonde hair.
Blonde hair, blue eyes.
Blue eyes. Yeah. Blonde hair, blue eyes.
Jean-Claude Van Damme in pretty much any movie growing up. Yeah, I remember thinking I'd like a body like that. And then I realized it was more a case of I just like the body. I just think the male form is beautiful. So I think, yeah, I've always appreciated the male form. But yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme back in the 80s, 90s, for sure. Show my age now.
Okay. Anyone else before we wrap up?
No, I think that's it.
All right.
Just got one thing to end on, if that's all right.
All right.
I just think this is quite important for us to just end this on, it's 2026 and here we are, 3 gay men that are, all married, 2 of us ready to be intended parents and one that already is. And I think that is a massive milestone and a massive achievement because this conversation would regularly be spoken with ladies, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I think I for one, am so proud to be sat here because the journeys we're all on, but to be where we are in this day and age is something quite special.
Yeah, I second that
and
100%.
I thank you for sharing the stage because genuinely.
Thanks, mate. Yes. What a good speech. I get that. But thank you two for being here and sharing your stories. I mean, parenthood is hard. Before, after, you said it earlier actually, that our journeys are like the book, right? The journey. So you got the before, during and after. And I think that's very true. But every stage is difficult. And for anyone that's going through it, whether you are, for surrogacy I'm talking about, but whether you are a straight couple, same-sex couple, just lean on your support. Because that is what we did. And that's the only way that we got through. Lean on each other as the couple, lean on your surrogate. Your surrogate will lean on you. You've just got to share the journey and organically it will become something really beautiful.
Yeah, can echo that. It's definitely an emotional roller coaster. And we got told that when we started this journey, it is an emotional roller coaster. So I think check-ins, making sure you're both all right, communication, supporting each other, especially through, there are moments where there's highs, but there are lows. And you just need to make sure that you're there for each other and don't give up. We are still on the journey and fingers and toes are crossed. And yeah, just keep going if you really want it. My final word is keep going.
Great word to end on. Thank you both so much. Chris, thank you for co-hosting.
No, pleasure. Thank you.
John, thank you for being here as our amazing
guest.
Thank
you, gents. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you, audience, for being here. It was good to have your input as well. And just before we end, I do want to thank Sam, who is behind me with his amazing cameras and sound in post-production. I can't wait to see what this episode ends up like. I do have to also thank our Awards for All who part finance this as well, so that's amazing. Thank you to them, and obviously our sponsor Ruth as well. Thank you for being here. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to our podcast. And we are hoping that you are going to help us out by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all of the usual, because actually with your involvement, we might be able to continue this podcast and commission a few more episodes to help people like yourselves. I just want to reiterate that if you have been impacted by what we've spoken about in these episodes, then please do find the links to support in the descriptions below.
Got me upside down, spinning around you.